We seem to be in some kind of limbo right now. I mean, we know that the Liberals are looking for a leader, and it almost looks like they're zeroing in on one that we might not have expected just a few months ago. And then, of course, anticipating an election, and everybody's kind of in election mode now anyway. Some people are prepared, others are not so. And it just seems like there's a big pall hanging over us, federally speaking. I don't mean in the absolute negative sense necessarily, but a kind of waiting and wondering. And this election thing seems to be changing shape with each passing day. What's your perspective?
Well, absolutely. I'm surprised that you think Ruby Dalla is actually going to win the Liberal leadership contest, but that's probably not who I'd put my money on. But you said it was somebody that we didn't think would win a month or so ago. But that being said, of course they will have their say on March the 9th, and certainly, if nothing else, the rumor mill, as you're well aware, is working at full speed. And certainly, I would say the loudest rumors that I have heard. Again, they're simply rumors. They're not backed by any fact or evidence or insider information. They're just loud rumors. Is that, all kidding aside, that probably Mark Carney will win the Liberal leadership on the 9th, and shortly thereafter we will be into a federal election. Those are the things that we hear about the loudest. Does that make them true? Absolutely not, and I want to be clear on that. I think that that's very, very important. As I said, I don't have any insider information of when the election could be. I think that everybody out there knows that it could be as late as October. So simply rumor. I want to make that clear, but that's what I'm hearing quite loudly.
Well, being of Scottish descent, I'm a long practitioner of reading the tea leaves when it comes to politics. and when I was saying somebody is going to win that at least expected kind of thing, I guess I was thinking a little further back than a month, because I was referring to Mark Carney. That he has emerged. He's the kind of the latest savior to be brought forward out of the world of not politics. The Liberals have a habit of pulling a rabbit out of the hat, as I called it the other day in my editorial. They kind of drive us into the ground. They set up the bank account in a huge negative fashion, and then the people who did that, they retire on cushy pensions, and they seek to get a new face, a new personality, a new kind of somebody with a special aura who's going to come in, ride in on the white horse and fix everything and bring it back to where it should be. And of course, that becomes a 3, 4, 5, 6 month part-time job. And then we're right back into it again with an election and a victory by the Liberals, pulling it out of the fire one more time. And I warned your leader, in fact, about that very thing. And I'm still upset that he runs around the country making nicknames to people and insulting them and insulting me and the Canadian public in the process, I'm sorry to say, because that's not what people are looking for. Somebody who's ready to take the reins, who has a sense of propriety, a sense of dignity and so on, that rise above that kind of stuff. And your guy hasn't. And now he's got his hands full, because a couple of months ago, he was riding a horse that looked like could not be stopped and could not be caught, and he was acting like it. And now Carney has come along, and the polls have done a dramatic shift, and it's a deja vu again with the Liberals. They should have been down and out, but they're not. And here we go again. What do you think?
Well, certainly you and I can, as we have many times in the past, agree to disagree. I would suggest to folks who, want to understand what the conservative message is, it really hasn't changed. The message continues to be the same. When I still go out and talk to everyday Canadians, which I do every day, I understand that the cost of living crisis is still paramount. You need to be able to heat your home where we live. You need to be able to have a roof over your head. You need to be able to put food in your belly, and clothes on your back. And those things are still consuming the thoughts of Canadians. And 2 points on that. Canadians will never, ever forget that is the last 9 years of reckless spending and unaccountability that have gotten all of us to this position. It's the spending of all of our money. I think that's incredibly important. And that, of course, Mr. Carney was a significant part of that, pulling the proverbial strings behind the scene. And I think the other challenge that I would say to folks is if they want to continue to understand, and again, there's two parts to this. If they want to continue to understand who Pierre Poilievre is, then they should listen to his speech at the rally I had the opportunity to attend in Ottawa last Saturday, which was after our caucus meeting on Friday. So I think that if they have the opportunity to listen to that, they will understand what our position is, and I think that that's incredibly important. And the second part of it is that the Westminster-style government that we have, people have to remember, we are not the United States, thankfully.
Thankfully, yes.
Yeah, we, as you know, we don't vote for the Prime Minister. We vote for our individual local representative. And, of course, in Cumberland-Colchester at the current time, that's myself as your Member of Parliament. And I think that we often get caught up in that kind of foolishness to say, oh, you know, this is the important thing or this is that. No. You're voting, again, right now, the person running in Cumberland-Colchester is myself. So if you want me to continue to be your representative, then that's the box that you tick. Pierre Poilievre's name, as much as, I realize that he's the leader of the Conservative Party, his name will not be on the ballot. It will be my name. And I think that that's an important thing for folks to continue to remember is how will your local interests be represented? And I think that, obviously that's a commitment that I've made. It's a significant change that I've made in my life to say that I don't think, as many Canadians didn't, they don't like the direction in which the country is going, and who out there is best to represent our local interests. I obviously really want to have a chance at reformation of the healthcare system. I'm the health critic. At the current time, the current Liberal government has done an abhorrent job at showing any federal leadership in making changes in the last 9 years in the healthcare system. It's gotten worse, and the wait times are the longest they've ever been, and the number of people without a family doctor are the longest is the worst it's ever been. So those things to me are very important. Fiscal responsibility, again, as I mentioned at the top of my comments, that people are in very, very difficult fiscal times, having to go to food banks and struggling to make ends meet. And we also know that the isthmus is going to be a top of mind for all of us, not just in Cumberland-Colchester, but for all of us in Nova Scotia. So those are things that I feel that we will be able to address with a incoming Conservative majority government.
Now, I tend to agree with pretty much all that you said, but I have a little caveat tied to that. When it comes to the next federal election, I have no doubt in my mind that you will likely be the victor once again. You've proven yourself. You've shown your ability to grasp all the subtleties of the issues as they change from Cumberland to Colchester and back again, as they change from the town to the rural, as they change from the coastal to the interior. You've grasped it all, and you've represented yourself well. And from the Westminster style of government and elections, I think you're good to go. Now, the problem is, starting probably with Pierre Trudeau, they got into this cult of leadership thing. Or you'll remember they had the Trudeau mania, they tagged it at the time, and how he would ride this crest of wave and have an aura about him that was so unique and special, and he would shake your hand and you would tremble, and they built it up into that, and we've been living with that kind of thing ever since. And even in the provincial campaigns, last campaign, of course, they talked about Team Houston, and let's elect so-and-so to be on the Team Houston team. And we've cultivated that kind of who's your leader kind of thing. Is that a person? I say it that way because I wonder if it's not just a man, but a woman. Is that the person that I like, I'm comfortable with as your leader who's calling the shots behind the scenes? And so we've developed a cult of leadership following, that the leader is standing for election in the same fashion you are. He has his own riding to win an election in. And then by virtue of the fact that your party has made him leader, he becomes prime minister or leader of the opposition, perhaps. And so that's the difficulty. We've got this cult of leadership going on, and we look at you and think you're a good guy, a great guy to have right here. And then in the back of your mind, you've got this thing going on about this guy who makes fun of people, gives them nicknames, talks in short bursts. I mean, he was on this program, as you know, and I have a suspicion you had a lot to do with getting him on the program. But I have to confess, it was not a great experience. It took him 45 minutes and 6 starts to get on the program beyond the time that he wanted. And he wasn't on for 5 minutes, and his aides were on my other phone telling me, wrap it up, wrap it up. It was like he just wanted to do it for you or do it to say he did. And, he really had nothing to say. And it's a shame. There's something about him. And I don't want to spend any more time on that because that's not the important issue here. I put out the warning that Mark Carney comes to the world of the crisis in finance, the crisis in cost of living, carrying with him a badge of honor that he pulled the Bank of Canada out of the deep fryer and went across the pond and did the same thing for the Bank of England. And when you start talking economic matters, the guy shines. He's not going to be a punching bag to go back in time, and I just want to say that. And again, I think. Go ahead.
If I could interrupt you, Bill, just for a second. I think that your comments are very broad with respect to this guy's ability. Certainly, he's an unproven entity. It takes time to understand how governments work. I've been there full-time 3.5 years, and I would suggest to you that my understanding is, I would suggest it's at a moderate level. It's not at a super level of understanding exactly every machination there could be. I think that's a downside. I think the other thing is the glowing report card that you gave him is a bit of a falsehood. And I don't say that to try to challenge you on that particularly, but I would suggest that folks might want to understand that while the governor of the Bank of England, the comments that Liz Truss, the former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, would have to say about Mr. Carney and his machinations there. So, to give this fellow who's an unproven entity glowing remarks because he might look somewhat competent or grandfatherly is certainly very premature.
Okay, let me interrupt you then, because
just one sec. Let me finish my thoughts. Just 1 second.
Well, you interrupted me. You remember?
I understand it. As I said, it's just 5 seconds. Being a prime minister is not being a governor of a bank. Being a prime minister is spending other people's money. Being the head of Brookfield Asset Management is trying to make money for shareholders. And again, we can get into all that conflict of interest if you would like to. And I'm happy to do that.
Okay. Now, just to back up a little bit. Yeah, I was not giving him a glowing report card. I was simply saying, in the context of an election about the cost of living and inflation and deficits and so on, the man brings with him a jargon and an understanding of economics. And he'd be hard-pressed to pick on him in terms of economic decisions and so on. He carries that cachet. Beyond that, I have no idea what the man is like or what he's about. I have no glowing report card for him on his background or anything, except that it would be entirely different to be campaigning against Chrystia Freeland, who was the Minister of Finance that set up the whole process that we're talking about right now. This guy can come in from outside, and purportedly, or hopefully, according to the Liberals, can fix the economic woes that they themselves created. And they've done that in the past with people from outside. It doesn't always work. But let's change horses here. I want to get something that's current right now that really galls me, and that's the announcement from the current Prime Minister. And I say it that way because we all know he's just got days, weeks ahead, and he's done. And here he is announcing a multi-billion dollar high-speed train system for Ontario and Quebec that's 4, 5, 6, 10 years down the road, long after he's gone. Where does he get off making such an announcement at this time?
It's interesting. How do you change the cookies if you don't change the dough? And I would suggest to you that, looking ahead, as much as Canadians may want to believe it, the Prime Minister doesn't have all the power to run the country. They possibly could, but I would suggest to you, and this will make sense in a minute, that all of us, and again, I've made it clear on this show previously, that I have the opportunity to sit at our decision-making tables, from, of course, being a member of caucus to being a chair of one of our caucus committees, and to being on our priorities and planning committee as well, where we bring those ideas and criticisms, perhaps, of government legislation to fruition, and make decisions about them, and have them presented back to caucus. So it's a very robust process that has significant input from all representatives. And I think that's incredibly important, that people understand that it's a very democratic process to be able to voice the concerns of people from across the nation, and for me specifically from Cumberland-Colchester. Why do I say that? It's because of the attitude of the current Prime Minister doing things like this, spending $4 billion with a B dollars when we're already almost $62 billion in deficit this year. You look around Mr. Carney, and he has had the most endorsements, some 80-odd endorsements from current sitting Liberal caucus members. As I look at that, and again, those are the folks that have been there for 9+ years and have had the opportunity to change the economic misery that has been foisted upon Canadians, and they chose not to do it. My question then would remain is, just because you've changed your shoes, the rest of your outfit remains the same. And if that's what Canadians want, and that's how they're going to choose to vote, then of course that's what they will receive: more economic hardship. And that is the sad state of affairs that we are in after 9 years of this current Liberal government. I can't see it changing. As I said, can't change the cookies if you don't change the dough. And that is the sad state of affairs that if we don't vote Conservative, that we'll be in.
Exactly. And it's all about smoke and mirrors and sleight of hand, my friend.
And listen, I have to be honest. I borrowed the cookie dough analogy from a good friend of mine, Dave Carroll, who's running in Sackville, Preston, Bedford, and he is the one of the sons of Maxwell, a fairly well-known local group, not local from Cumberland-Colchester, but local from Nova Scotia. And I will send you the link to his to the jingle that he has made up with him. Of course, he and his brother singing, and the ditty that goes along with it.
So do that, please. I welcome the link.
I will do it, and then if people want to see it, they certainly can view it as well. So, as I said, I mean, we're ready for an election here. I want to be clear to folks. You will see us as soon as the writ is dropped, out on your doorstep every single day, knocking on your door, asking you for your support, making sure that that the ways we have to contact you are appropriate, asking you if you want to have a sign on your lawn to show your support. So that's kind of the next phase that we are looking forward to. Obviously, in the interim, today we'll continue to have meetings that are related to understanding the concerns about the high cost of energy in our province, how we may be able to change that with energy corridors and things of the like. So planning for the future, continuing to speak to, I think I mentioned it before, all of the deans of Canada's medical schools to understand how we can reduce training time burden and get more physicians into the system more quickly. So that's just an example of things of how we will continue to work on the file until the day the election happens, because at least the election starts, because at the current time, of course, I'm still the Member of Parliament and must work on these very, very important files.
In the meantime, when it comes time to knock on the door, 138 Church Street in Pugwash is my door. You bring the date squares, I'll provide the coffee.
Okay, I look forward to that. That'll be great. We'll do a live on-air thing.
Wait, that's another possibility, yeah.
Okay, we could do it right from the studio.
You got it.